Everybody, I'll tell you something. This is a leadership conference. You spend a few minutes just listening to you folks interact last night and just hearing the stories and seeing the affection you have for one another. It's a leadership conference because you influence one another, and it's obvious. And you're going to get influence in the next couple of days. And you'll probably do some influencing and you don't even know who you're influencing because you have an impact on people. And that's what makes this association so special. Let me show you this little fella. This little fella here. Now this is a flyer from the Methodist Home for Children in Williamsville, New York. This person, along with my mom, had the biggest influence on me in terms of modeling leadership principles when I was a little guy. And I still remember many of those things, and frankly, they help me today. This is my dad. He was raised in an orphanage. He lost his mom when he was 2 years old, and he's pictured on this flyer. He gave that to me once I had a family of my own. And I really came to appreciate a number of things about him, because the thing that I will tell you, I never heard him once, nor did my sisters ever hear him once complain about that orphanage or about his childhood. He spent his whole childhood there into his teenage years. He left the home to join the military. He was a machine gunner and a single engine prop that flew off of aircraft carriers. And then he raised a family of his own. And again, I never heard him say a negative word about the childhood experience. You know, and as a kid, that's just your dad. But as you get older, you start to appreciate it, because let me tell you what I did hear him say. A lot. Where's your report card? What's your teacher's name? When's the Little League game? You want to play catch in the backyard? When I wanted to be a paper boy for the Buffalo Evening News, I was 10 years old, and that was a great gig at the time because those were old-time paper boys. You'd make $10 or $12 a week. That was a lot of money back then. And I remember the speech he gave me when I wanted to be a paper boy. He said, if you want to be a paper boy, you're going to deliver papers. Doesn't matter if it's snowing. It doesn't matter if you feel like it. You're the paper boy. I'm not the paper boy. And I would collect. He would write the check. We'd pay the bill. And what was left over went in my bank account. But again, here's the point. He gave us everything he didn't have. He gave us everything he didn't have. And that started to influence me when I became a young adult. And I will tell you, it influences me as a leader today, because there's a simple principle of leadership that applies. It does not matter where you start. It doesn't always matter where you start, but it does always matter what you do after you start. And I remember this every single day. So, at the RSPA, we've inherited something really special. Since 1948, we've had so many great people. Many of them are in this room today that have walked through the halls of the RSPA since 1948. But I want you to know that our team based in Charlotte has really come to grips with the fact that it's not the benefits of what we've inherited. It's what we do with it. And we know that you guys have a question. When you decide to come to an event like this, or when you decide to participate in anything that the RSPA is doing, you got that little voice in your head. And that voice is saying, can this group help me? Can this group help advance my business? And we've got to be able to answer that question in the affirmative. And that's serious business. That's serious business. You know, Peter Drucker wrote 39 books. 39 books. And when he was in his 80s, when he was asked what his favorite book was that he had written, he said his next book. His next book. And I think that's the secret. We've got a few next books here at the RSPA, right, BJ? As great as it's been, we got to write some new books. And there's going to be some books we're going to need you to help us author in order for us to tap in to the real power of this community. I'll tell you the approach we're going to take today. We're going to give you a little bit of a progress report on our business as we attempt to answer that question that you'll ask, that little voice in your head, can I help you? The answer is yes. We're going to demonstrate that to you. But we're going to give you a little progress report. And then we're going to share with you what we see as our priorities. And notice, I don't have to look at any notes here. I'm speaking to you from the heart. What our priorities are. And then we're going to tap into the power and the potential power beyond what we've done in the past of this community. So that's our blueprint today. Give you a little bit of a progress report, share with you what we think our priorities are in the near term that line up with the strategic plan we've shared with you in the past, and those pillars of member value, industry positioning, and organizational strength. We're going to line up with that and stay consistent, stay on the trail. So, progress report. I want to talk a little bit about our team. Every one of them are here today. We got a special team. And, it starts with the folks that were here before I got here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them. Because if you remember, if you were in Hawaii a year ago, and you've heard me speak about it in other forums as well, but we said that we were going to kind of look at what were we going to be about as a business. We were going to follow a pretty methodical path. What were we going to deliver as a business? And then we were going to define a structure that lines up with that so that we could be true to that vision, mission, and trademark. Vision to be an indispensable resource. Mission to accelerate your success through knowledge and connections. And a trademark to be a trusted thought leader. Driven to professionally serve our members as you thrive. So we got to have a structure that allows us to deliver consistent with those ideals. And that's what we did. Then we said we were going to bring in the talent to help complete that structure, and then get the measures and the metrics and the management system to help us execute and refine every day. Well, tell you a little bit about our team. Ashley Nagy has been here before I got here. She's been a longtime performer of the RSPA. She's taken on an expanded role. Ashley will actually address the group on Wednesday this week, and you will be very impressed if you haven't had a chance to work with Ashley yet. And if you have, I know you've been impressed, but you will be impressed with her professionalism and poise and her genuine concern and desire to help. So Ashley Nagy, Gabby Core, one of the best communicators we have on our team. She's a great communicator from a graphics design standpoint, bringing creativity to sending out our message. Very talented. I call her a secret weapon. Gabby Core, just dynamite. Chris Arnold, when I arrived, and you may have heard me say this before, and it's the last time I'll say it, but I think it's worth repeating one more time. Chris was a temporary employee or a contract employee. He's a full-time employee now, and as I always say, that says way more about him than it says about us. And he's just a terrific young man that is adding a lot of value in how we communicate our brand and our positioning. And he's going to focus a lot on driving demand in Canada, because we got a great opportunity in Canada and we're nowhere near where we need to be. And he's going to focus on making sure you guys know about the regional events, which we launched. So those are going to be two areas that he drives some demand generation and just make sure we have the market positioning we need in those two very important areas. So Chris Arnold is a terrific team member for us, and he's picked up an awful lot of added responsibility as we've streamlined our team. Michael Millard is our newest member. Michael has grocery store experience, which we were lacking. He's got a real good insight. He was involved with the inventory process at Publix, and he's learning the ropes, starting to get his sea legs under him to figure out how to serve these members in the best way as he serves the association. And we're excited about his start. He's done a terrific job and has exhibited a great attitude. And then we've got three other individuals we've added. You've already heard from Kathy. Kathy's our VP of the RSPA Academy. Since she arrived on May 29th, we have an RSPA Academy. We have a formal curriculum. We've launched a regional. We've added a faculty. And there's many more things that Kathy has in motion. But this training is unique. And we have a person that understands the channel, understands your walk, and we're trying to deliver tailor-made programs that help you succeed. Marie Perry was the first person to join us. She came in February, just after I arrived. And I would just say this about Marie Perry. I think she's the most talented person in the SMB space for gathering data and giving you various lenses to look out at the marketplace, size it up, make decisions, and make appropriate investments. She is another secret weapon. I said to the board yesterday, when it comes to data analysis and sizing things up and putting data in a mode that gives you a meaningful conclusion or a hypothesis, I would walk in any dark alley with Marie Perry. She's the best there is. And for those of you that have had the benefit of working with her, you know that. Many of you haven't yet. But we have invested in the largest commercial database in the world. And Marie will leverage that database for your market and for your pursuit as you evolve into being a managed services provider. Very important role on our team. And you'll see some of those tools today when Dave walks us through his workshop and presents a sales curriculum, because Marie's tools are all over those. And then Dave Minton. Dave is I call him our member strength coach, all things sales, service, and operations. And Dave's a special guy. He has spent time on the front lines managing implementation teams, service teams, and he's worked with in a large vendor environment where he served our channel partners. And many of them are in this room. And I think you will find that Dave's a person that cares. He will give you his best, and his best is pretty darn good. You're going to hear a lot from him today. He's going to walk you through the sales curriculum, and he's going to facilitate a workshop, which we are really excited about, because we're going to talk about tools for getting better. For getting better. So let's go ahead and give you a little feel for those priorities that we talked about. Every business has to, at some point, work to narrow the scope of their products and solutions so they can be really good at what they do. We're no different. So I call this 3+1. We've got 3 areas that we're focusing on now that we believe are consistent with our strategy. We believe are consistent with our strategy, and here they are. And then the +1 is a platform of services that you've grown to appreciate. So first, Kathy touched on it, branded SMB content. We feel like by gathering data and putting it in the aggregate and publishing back to you, we can help inform your strategy like no other organization. But this is one of those next books we got to write together. We got to write together. And we can do it. We can do it. We're excited about it. You'll see some examples of some of the branded content early on, and I'm going to show you some results of a pilot and an early on effort here in just a bit. Second is education in all forms. Now, we know we've got the distance learning or the webinar. We know we've had events like this, what we call big events. We also know that we launched a regional, which is a close-knit workshop setting. Those are powerful because that's where you can roll up your sleeves and learn from one another and talk turkey and get better together over the course of 6 or 7 or 8 hours. That's exciting stuff. We're just starting. We're going to do 1 a quarter here in the next 12 months. So we see the regionals as a very powerful tool for us. But there's something else we're working on. We've already spoken to a couple of larger vendors, some of which have made some pretty significant investments recently, about outsourcing education. We have a chance, because of the know-how that we have on staff, we have a chance to tailor outsource education on your behalf. There's some wrinkles we'd have to iron out, and we could break it if we wanted to, just in terms of talking at a high level about the approach, but we also think there's ways to iron those wrinkles out and make it work in a big way. So we're really excited about that. Outsourced education. Now, we got a simple formula. We want to lead, but we want to listen. And we want to listen first and learn, and then we're in a better position to lead. We've been doing a lot of that, and there's a need for good, solid sales education. Sales process, deploying a sales force, defining a market, quantifying the value of it, especially as you branch into into an MSP mode and expand your portfolio, forecast discipline, consistency in a community. We can help you with that. So education in all forms. And the third, a more expanded social impact. Let me tell you where that comes from. If you've ever watched the scholarship videos and the testimonials on those videos, and we get thank you notes from the students that have received those scholarships. And we read them to the team. They are powerful, powerful stuff. And it makes us realize that we can do more. We can't chase every social cause. We can't chase every natural disaster, although we'd love to, but we can do more. So this Build a Bike project is just a start. We can see that every event we may embrace a charitable cause together as a community and rally together and make a difference. Can you imagine in San Antonio if we purchased backpacks and we filled them up with school supplies, and all of a sudden X amount of children have backpacks in the San Antonio area that otherwise wouldn't have had them, but they do because the RSPA landed and met at Retail Now? There's opportunities for us to do a little, because doing a little sometimes is a lot. And we want to explore it with you. And we talked to the board about this yesterday, and I think everybody is in full agreement. We've got an opportunity to do more, not because of the team in Charlotte, but because of this great community. We don't want to miss out on it. Now, I said 3+1. The one is that platform of services. You've grown to appreciate Bob Goldberg. What a great resource he has been for this association over a long period of time. Difference maker. He's there. We've got Nathan Sweeney. What a difference Nathan makes. When the horn goes off and you've got a problem and you need to go to somebody and pick up the bat phone, we got Nathan Sweeney and a cast of thousands to help you. Both folks like Hunter and Mike, who've been on the PCI advisory board, and we've got a team, but Nathan leads that security team. And when we say 3+1, those are some of the core services that aren't going away. They're not going away. In fact, we're going to expand them, and we could see ourselves adding some additional affinity programs that hopefully in the next time we're together, we'll be able to share some details with you on. But it's all about bringing you value. As Tom Reichert said yesterday, it's about delivering what the members need. Howie Aiken had a great quote that Brad shared at our last board meeting. Not this one, but out in Nashville, Brad shared that Howie said that, remember, everything we do has to be for the members. That's our purpose. Everything we do has to be for the members. So as we can come up with some ideas around affinity that can impact you, we're going to do that. Now, I want to remind you that every one of these initiatives I just spoke of are in alignment with the bigger picture. You know, we start with those strategic pillars, and then we cascade out to strategies, and then initiatives and actual actions that we measure and track. So we're not branching out from what we spoke to you before. We're just evolving and developing and progressing. On the social impact, I want to share a quote with you because I think this is important. We want to do good, but in order for businesses to do good, they have to do well. So that third strategic pillar of organizational strength is pretty important, because we got to do well in order for us to do good. So we talked about our progress. We've talked about some of the areas that we're focusing on as priorities. Now I want to pivot to the power of this community. Can you imagine if we were able to offer you a view that you've never had before in terms of the typical profile of the most successful salespeople or the most successful employees in our space? We went out and purchased a block of 100 of a profiling tool, so that we can make it available to our members. Some of our members have already taken us up on it. But I think it's one of the best kept secrets. We bought them at a discount price so we could offer them back to you. And basically, what we're able to do is look at thinking styles, behaviors, interests, and improve the probability of success. And imagine this, as we go down the road, what if we had a database of X amount of salespeople, as an example, that had gone through the program. This was the profile, and this profile, this DNA, is the typical high success rate group. And you benefit from that. Your selection process is informed by a little bit of science, not just gut. Because as you guys know, when we make a mistake here, it's expensive. It's never going to be an exact science. but it's an expensive mistake, and we want to reduce the chances of failure and increase the chances of success. We can do this together. And if you'd like to talk about getting some of those subscriptions or positions on the profiling tools that we purchased, you can talk to myself or Kathy or Dave or anybody on our team during this event. We'll make sure we get one for you, or as many as you want, because it's great. This is a Winston Churchill quote, and I think it's a great quote because I think everybody will agree we're in a complex environment, but out of intense complexity, sometimes intense simplicities emerge, and that's really what we're talking about when we talk about aggregating data. Let me give you a few examples. As you guys have measured your business over the years, you probably have looked at things like revenue per employee, productivity per salesperson. You probably look at average scope of work, and it's probably a little different now than it was 3 or 4 years ago. You might look at the absorption rates of your professional services resources. You might look at your inventory or your percent of profit against total revenue or percent of expenses against total revenue. Or how about this? Your sales backlog, meaning we've sold it, we haven't delivered it yet. We've got $1 million in bookings and we got a $2 million quarterly plan, so we got a 50% sell bill reality. Those kind of things you might look at. You certainly would look at what percentage of your total revenue is recurring revenue. What percentage of that recurring revenue is non-traditional recurring revenue as you venture into managed services provider space? Those are things you probably have looked at to some degree, and you need to look at them more, especially as you evolve. And here's the thing. Some of those answers are still important, but they'll be a little bit different. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we could say with assurance that X percent of systems going out the door today are still client-server? We could guess. We might know what it is for our business, but what's going on in the industry? There's just not that much data out there aimed at SMB. And SMB is a thriving market. I saw some stats the other day that retail sales in 2018 grew 6%, and even new store openings, new store units grew over 5%. And the average IT spend has grown over 5%. We're in a thriving market. We need to inform our strategies with the best data we can as we go and lasso these SMB opportunities. So these are some examples, and there's plenty more to share with you. But those are things you would look at in the past. And there's that backlog. That backlog piece. To me, that's an important one to get your arms around, because if you're driving a forecast, boy, I'll tell you, if you know what your backlog is, that's relevant over that period that forecast applies, then you know what your sell bill reality is, and it's kind of a reason check, right? So, imagine for a minute, and we're going to go through a workshop today, and Dave Mitten's going to go through it with you. We've actually got the questionnaire. Marie Perry's constructed it very carefully, a by-the-numbers approach at how you can deliver the information to us and answer the question the same way so that we get a consistent benchmark. Your answers will be different, but you'll be answering them the same way. And in return, you get a lot. So here's the point. You give a little, and you get a lot. Out of intense complexity, intense simplicities emerge. And here's what you got to know that you can count on. Once we aggregate your data, we're destroying it. It's your data. It's confidential. We don't want to know about your business. We just want the benefit of getting a better benchmark, a better standard, a realistic view of today's world. That's what we're striving for. And I know that it requires an element of trust. No question about that. But we're in this thing together. And if we can help you as an association, that's what we want to do. We want to be a low-cost, high-value resource for you. Low-cost, high-value resource for you. We think we can do it. As we get ready to introduce Dave Mitten, I thought this was a very good reminder for us all. This quote. It's an old principle. It'd be easier to sell the Brooklyn Bridge than it would be to give it away. What do we mean by that? Why do I think it's an appropriate lead into what Dave's getting ready to share with you? When we evolve to a managed services role and we start to bundle and create new bundles, we might actually look in the mirror and not see the value we deliver. We might not price our gold bundles right or our premier bundles right. We may sell ourselves short. So we started out with a little bit of a leadership principle. I'm going to end with a little bit of a leadership principle. And that we've got to lead our teams and we've got to lead our customers as we believe in our value. If you ask me what I think the number one characteristic of a leader is, that vital to a leader, it's you got to believe. You got to believe in what you're doing. You got to believe in your team, and you got to bet the farm on it. I believe that because that's how you get better. Doesn't mean you got to know it all. It doesn't mean that, boy, I had it right on day one, but it does mean I know what I was trying to get right. And I stayed with it until I got it right. Because I believed, even if I was the only person in the room, we got the job done. And before you know it, you got a team rallying. So I would hope that you guys, if you've ever undervalued what you do, I'd hope you think of this quote. It's easier to sell the Brooklyn Bridge than it is to give it away. And it's much easier to sell a great product and a great solution and a great service that you guys provide than it is to let somebody undervalue it. But you better have good, sound sales processes and principles in order to bring that home. So, one of the best definitions of leadership I ever came across, I was 18 years old, I was a tower guard in Korea. It was a military definition of leadership, but I've never heard a better one since. And there's a whole bunch of people, I bet if you do a Google search on leadership, you'll see a whole bunch of definitions, but committed to memory as an 18-year-old kid, and I still remember it today. Art of influencing and directing, I'll say soldiers because that's what it was, the definition at the time, but people. Art of influencing and directing soldiers in a manner as to obtain their willing obedience, confidence, respect, and loyal cooperation in order to accomplish a mission. Think about that. Art, influencing, and occasionally you got to make a decision and direct. You got to call a play, right? Every once in a while. But influencing and directing in a manner as to obtain willing obedience, confidence, respect, and loyal cooperation. That's a mouthful, isn't it, Lynn? That's a mouthful. Not easy to do. But when we work with customers in a way that we put their needs first and we lead the customer in that regard in a respectful way and we show them an ROI and we show them the ROI of our team, the great value of working with our team, because we believe, then we got a great opportunity.